I just burped so nasty, and we're live. God, I'm not
Everything
even.
in
I've only had half of this. Welcome to the Legends podcast. I'm Jeremy, and he's
and I
Dylan.
yep.
And Noah was allegedly supposed to show up and is late once again.
Yes, it is 4 a.m. in Germany right now, approximately.
He's usually up before this. I just want to point that out, everyone. Once again, Noah is late. We even started the podcast late for him. But alas, let's talk some Star Wars. Let's talk some Star Wars audio dramas. Because this has been my deep dive this week. It's just been listening to Star Wars audio dramas. And I wanted to thank the channel Quinlan Voss for doing a review on the Tales of the Jedi ones, because it really piqued my interest. As I said in the last podcast, hello, small time republic. How are we doing? So, anyway, as I said in the last podcast, my dad is getting back into the EU and he wants to listen to unabridged audiobooks. But I was like, he's really missing out on some good stuff like Dark Empire or Tales of the Jedi. And I'm like, well, I might as well jump in and listen to some of these audio dramas and then send them his way, because a lot of them you can find pretty easily on the internet.
Mhm.
Uh, Jared Kelly says, "Hey guys, hello." Um, so anyway, I started with Tales of the Jedi, worked through all those, which is not all of Tales of the Jedi, unfortunately. It's only about half of it, but still, it's a good amount of it. Um, Jumped into Dark Forces, and this is where things get real fascinating, Dylan, because I noticed some continuity weird things. So these are pretty much all written by John Whitman, who wrote Galaxy of Fear. He adapted all these into audio dramas.
Interesting.
So yeah, in Dark Forces, Soldier of the Empire, he adds in Vufi Ra from the Lando Calrissian trilogy, because Lando's in the book
Mhm.
Soldier for the Empire. I always say Soldier of the Empire, Soldier for the Empire. But he's not.
Yeah, he doesn't have him and Goofy go separate ways by the end of the trilogy. Don't I've read this recently.
Yes. So I don't know if it quite makes sense to have Vufi Ra there. So I don't know. Then we get Rebel Agent. Rebel Agent has Luke and Leia in it. Luke's still called Commander Skywalker, which is a thing. That is a thing in these audio dramas. Even though Luke's not in the military anymore, he is still called Commander Skywalker. Which is just weird. I'm getting a question here from Rob D. Hello, Jeremy. Quick question. Have you ever read Superman by John Byrne? I recently read volumes 2 and 3. Not the biggest Superman fan. I will say I love. So no, I have not read these. I have read Red Sun, and I have read All Star Superman, and I read the New 52 Action Comics. The first 6 issues of that. Was not a fan of that at all. My thing with Superman is I like him in when he works with other superheroes, but I don't like him on his own. Oh, I've read Superman versus Aliens and Superman Batman versus Alien versus Predator. I've read that because I've read all of those horrible, horrible crossovers with the Alien and Predator franchises. Um, what was I saying?
Dark Forces.
Oh yeah, Rebel Agent, which Rebel Agent happens post Endor.
Mhm.
Happens I think right after Jedi Prince.
If only we had a friend or something from like maybe like a foreign country that was putting together a timeline of all these events. It would be
Well,
really helpful.
here's the thing. I've been talking to him, and he's like, "No, this isn't right," because I was going to save it for this,
hmm
and I'm like, I got deeply confused because I read these before, and it wasn't right. Not just that, we get to Jedi Dark Forces Jedi Knight, the third book,
hmm
and it claims it's a couple years after Rebel Agent, and I'm like, what the fuck? This is the same mission. And I get why John Whitman did it, because it makes no goddamn sense that Kyle Katarn can take on all these Dark Jedi
hmm
in like lightsaber combat. It makes no sense. That's my big problem with Jedi Knight. But also, here's the other thing in Jedi Knight: Han shows up in it. We got Luke, Leia, and Han. We got everyone basically, and Han and Leia are described as being married.
Interesting.
I think it's because like she is Leia goes by Leia Organa Solo. But as you know, at the end of Jedi Prince, they get married, but the plan was the next book, they were gonna get bombed. The wedding wasn't going to go through. And that's why Courtship of Princess Leia fits. Um and it's weird. It's just weird. Also, my one other complaint: the voice they get for Kyle Katarn sounds like Luke. So
Hmm.
when Luke's in there, they found someone who doesn't really sound like Luke. It's deeply confusing some of the time. And it doesn't really explain why Luke isn't really involved in finding the Valley of the Jedi. You'd
hmm
think he'd be like the one spearheading that,
hmm
especially if he's going off and having an adventure with Guri for Shadows of the Empire Evolutions. You'd think he would go after the Valley of the Jedi. That seems a bit more important. I do appreciate that characters that aren't the Skywalkers do something of importance to the galaxy, and their name isn't Corin Horn. That's a big thing. Their name isn't Corin Horn, who fights Luke and gets the better of him, and acts like a bitch about it. Who's also like the best character ever. Okay, I'm done. I'm done with it. Corin Horn was more interesting when he didn't have the Force.
Uh, yeah.
Yes, he's more
Well,
interesting
I
as a
think
just a pilot.
I Jedi Cornhorn. I still say I Jedi Cornhorn is the worst Cornhorn we've ever gotten. I think he's a lot better in New Jedi Order. Even with
Oh
Stagwell
yeah,
writing him, and he's not really around. He has the one funny scene in Dark Nest when him and Kip are having an argument over like the something with like what the Jedi are gonna do about like the killing problem, and Kip gets so fed up with him that he force shoves him into a bulkhead door. That was funny because Corn can't do that back, and Kip knows that, just bullying between the two of them. Uh, where was I going with that?
well, that Cornhorn, I Jedi Cornhorn is the worst.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people say, oh, it's like there's a bit of unreliable narrator happening there because it's his point of view and whatnot, and that just probably explains a lot of the shit that like doesn't work. I've actually seen someone was reading through it and they were talking about how like iJedi does a much better job of actually like going through like the actual training scenes at Luke's temple, which I can
I
I
can
can
get
give it.
behind that too. Yeah,
Yeah.
my issues are with Cornhorn as he's just not enjoyable to read about.
I think Meg Review has said it best. Your mileage may vary depending on how much you like Corn Horn.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's the Cornhorn book.
Mhm.
Um, Here's a couple more. Rob D saying that he wasn't a fan of New 52. You could just say that for all of New 52. it for the most part was a failure. But Greg Keyes writes Core and Horn better than Stackpole. I can see that. Yeah.
You know, actually, speaking of Stackpole and kind of on the audio drama thing, I've recently been re-listening to the X-Wing audiobooks now that we've gotten them on unabridged ones. And I
Mhm.
remember there's one part in Krytos Trap, spoilers for Krytos Trap in advance, that I just felt like I get the necessity of like audiobooks and how much they helpful, but like how it doesn't always translate well reading the book because there's one scene where there's a character in Krytos Trap that is essentially a sleeper agent for Isard, and
Mhm.
it's revealed like kind of at the end that they're a sleeper agent for Isard, and they betray the New Republic, and then this character dies, right? And in like the book, when you're reading it, he has a few lines before it reveals who it is. So like you have that like you're going for a few pages in the chapter, you don't realize it's who. But because of like the audiobook format, and how like they do voices for everyone. By the
Mhm.
time you hear his first line, you know who it is, but the characters are still acting like they don't know who it is until it's like revealed like a few minutes later.
Yeah.
Just an interesting thing I thought. You just reminded me going over audio dramas and like the voices of characters and how that can like kind of run counter to to like how something is set up within a book.
Okay.
Which I don't think is their fault. It's just an
No,
interesting thing
no,
I
it's
noticed.
just Matthew and I have been talking Geeks Attic slash Tuscan Reader, and I have been talking about this because he is getting back into straight up reading books.
Mhm,
Whereas the way my life is right now, I have to rely heavily on audiobooks.
mhm,
And he's like, there's just a certain thing about reading it for yourself that is
mhm.
a little easier at times.
Yeah, because I can't multitask when I'm reading an audiobook. I have to be doing nothing else but like listening to the audiobook. Like maybe driving, but driving's kind of mindless. Like I have to be focusing on the audiobook to
Mhm.
like actually follow the story and like know what's happening.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I get that. Um, let me get to Dark Empire here because I started the second one on my drive
Mhm,
back up. I'm about a third of the way through. Um, Dark Empire, interesting. It's the longest of all of these. It's 2.5 hours. Questionable voice acting, although Billy D. Williams comes back to voice Lando. That's one of the highlights. So you're getting authentic Lando. Um, the the thing is, no one can do a Han Solo impersonation except for Mark Thompson. No one else can do it, and it is awful. It is awful at all times.
mhm.
Um, at least I will say this: that they got Chewbacca in this. They're using stock Wookiee growls instead of what Mark Thompson does half the time, where he does them himself,
Mhm.
which I hate. Scoundrels is almost unlistenable solely because of that.
Mhm.
And he ruined several new canon books doing that too. Well, to be fair, the aftermath math books were already ruined. It just was more terrible. Chewie was in there. I think he does in those. I know he does it in that awful Daniel Jose older book, Last Shot, that just rips off the new rebellion.
Mhm.
Because if you're gonna rip off a book, I guess you rip off the new rebellion. Because no one actually read that.
Um, maybe. I don't know. I see. I don't know anymore with Bantam. Like, which of the random Bantam that aren't like Anderson, Zahn, Stackpole, or Alston that like people actually know? Like, because like you know, Crystal Star is the meme, right? Everyone knows it more of infamy, but like with like the Black Fleet Crisis, the Corellian trilogy, New Rebellion, of the Barbara Hambly books,
Yes.
Kathy Tyers. Like, I don't know. I don't know what like. unlike the rest of bands. It's like it's the big four, and like there's everyone else. Basically, is how I think a lot of people consider Bantam. And I think when a lot of people think of Bantam, they think of the big 4.
Well, briefly for the lulls here.
Hmm.
Um, where would you rank these other authors?
Well, Hambly's worst, easily.
I would agree. Um,
Um, just off Bantam, I really liked Michael P. Q. McDowell. I think the Black Fleet Crisis is criminally underrated.
see,
Um,
I don't. It's okay. That's the thing with Bantam. Bantam is very okay for the
mhm.
most part.
Yes, I
It's what I
think
call safe Star Wars. Can't
yes.
do too much with Luke. Can't do this. Oh, Leia's got to be kidnapped. The kid's got to be kidnapped. So you end up with like Black Fleet Crisis. I think the Corellian trilogy is a little better than Black Fleet Crisis
Hmm.
because you get the greatest Lando subplot ever,
Hmm.
which is Lando trying to find a wife.
Yeah, he spends the first book with Luke just trying to find a wife.
I love it. It's fun.
And
It's
there's like the one like succubus lady that's gonna like eat like slowly eat his life force or whatever over
mhm.
like the few years. And then like he finds that out, I was like, oh, not interested. And then she's like, understandable. What?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Hang on.
Everyone's here.
First of all, Rob D is yeah, Matthew is doing so much better with reading Legends and not reading Clone Wars Legends books because he was not enjoying that. Which for good reason. There's a lot of weird bad ones in there, and he read the worst of them all at once when we told him not to.
Hmm.
Small Time Republic, the guy that did Hansel in the original radio dramas did good, but didn't sound like Harrison Ford. That's the thing. You got to do your own thing with Han Solo. You can't try to do the Harrison Ford impersonation. It just most people can't do it. Matt Wilkins, if you're going to rip off, uh,
I don't know why he does that. I think Bantam, kind of getting back on topic, I think Bantam is like the era itself is fine. The
yeah,
stories themselves, like individually, are fine, but in the grand scheme of things, outside of like I guess like the highlights that have like the really galaxy changing stuff and like Thrawn trilogy, Jedi Academy,
Hand of Thrawn
Truth
duology.
and Thrawn duology, they really just kind of exist to as like setup for a new Jedi Order. I think is how you have to look at it.
And my whole thing is this: I'm a big Dark Horse comic fan. Dark Horse Comics, I think, did overall a better job with the New Republic
Mhm,
than the Bantam books did. They experimented more with
mhm.
things, and I like that. Like with this Dark Empire stuff. I mean, Luke's doing crazy stuff with the Force that most of these authors will wet their pants with the prospect of doing anything near as powerful. Unless your name's Kevin J. Anderson, you really don't do anything with Luke's powers.
Yeah, I think I agree with Marcel. Uh, Bantam has a lot more good and mid than it does bad,
Yeah.
but I think it's mostly mid. It's like if there's a pie chart, right? The mid is the biggest pie chart, and then the good is the second biggest, and then the bad is like the smallest. You know?
Well, let's be real. They wrote less than Del Rey did.
Oh yeah.
That's part of it. I think X Wing's a solid series of books,
Hmm.
but X Wing just doesn't even feel like Bantam.
No, it doesn't.
Out of all of those, even Zahn's books, X-wing translates the best to the Del Rey feel
Hmm.
out of any of them. Where's that German?
Yeah, we were. This wasn't the topic, by the way. We're kind of stalling to get until Noah wakes up, so that we can get to our main topic because he's the one who knows a lot of these. One thing I have, my rabbit hole I've gone into recently is the frankly terrible new fan experience that is the paperback releases, not just the Essential Legends collection, just like the normal mass market paperbacks, and kind of the confusing and baffling decisions that Del Rey is making. Like the fact that there are still books that to this day, as far as we know, don't have a printing with the Legends banner on it. Thank you, Quinlan Voss. I know you were in chat earlier for
Mhm,
making the video on that. But that's
mhm,
something that we've at Twin Sons known for a while, is that Ambush at Corellia is the big one because we include it in a lot of donations because it's a good first off. It's one of the better Bantam ones, and especially because most of the people we donate to are kids. It
mhm.
heavily features the solo kids in it, which are so it gives them like a protagonist that is like around their age group that they can root for, right? But again, ever since we bought um, a Ambush at Corellia, every single time it comes in, it's got no banner on it. It's got no timeline on it. The only thing that connects to the rest of the EU is the front cover that says the next two books are Assault on Salonia and Showdown or Centerpoint. That's it. And there's so many other examples like that of books that just don't have the timeline in them for whatever reason, that don't have the banner in them, or have confusing placement of like random short stories that don't belong to its own its own series, or even like putting short stories like where they're not supposed to be.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't. It's so weird. Star Wars has done this before Disney took over with just letting series just fall out of print. I mean, they did it with the kid stuff all the time.
Mhm.
They did it with the Dark Horse would do it all the time.
The kid stuff is another one because, and I know this isn't just a Del Rey thing. This is a publishing industry at large thing where they don't like to put the series number on the books, because if you go to a bookshelf and you see a book 7, you're probably not going to buy it because you don't want to start the story at book 7. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a bait and switch. But especially with the young reader stuff, if you're trying to track down, say, Jedi Apprentice, right? You're either doing it online or you're going to go into like a secondhand bookstore and you're going to find 5 of them, right? But if you just find 5 of them, if you don't know anything other than, oh, I need to collect Jedi Apprentice, right? Do you know which 5 you have? I mean, they'll say like they'll have the covers on them, like the names on them, but like, do you know which? Again, if you saw 5 random Jedi Apprentice books at like a second hand bookstore, are you going to know which one's the first one? Are you going to know which one to read first if you don't have the first one? Like what order they're in? There's no information in the Jedi Apprentice books or any of um, the long series Jedi Quest, Young Jedi Knights, any of them.
Most of them are numbered in the spines.
Are they? Jedi
Yes, that
Apprentice
was a
isn't.
scholastic thing. Scholastic numbered things. Young Jedi Knights is the exception to that. Young Jedi
Okay,
Knights,
maybe I'm thinking of Young Jedi Knights, not Jedi
yeah,
Apprentice.
Jedi Knights is not numbered. That was deeply confusing. But no, the scholastic ones they always did. But
Okay,
most of those series they didn't go for very long. Jedi Apprentice and oh god, what was
Jedi.
Galaxy of Fear was numbered. That went for 12 books. But Jedi Apprentice is the odd one out in the a ton there's a ton of them. I mean, there's basically 20 books.
Yeah,
Uh,
technically 20, 18 or 20, depending on what definition you want to go by.
well, the special edition books are called Jedi Apprentice, even though they're kind of a quasi Jedi Quest
Yeah.
in there. But yeah, Jedi Quest, there's 11 of them technically because there is the novel Jedi Quest,
Mhm.
which is like point
Oh, and
0.5.
there's also Legacy and Secrets of the Jedi, which are kind of prequels to Jedi Apprentice, but not really.
Well, they're also Clone Wars books.
Yeah.
And then there's Last of the Jedi. You got your Rebel Force, which those aren't particularly long series. You got your Boba Fett series.
That was 6.
Yes. Star Wars: The Clone Wars Secret Missions, which is 4 of those.
Yes.
They're all numbered. Those are all numbered. Young Jedi Knights wasn't. God, I think Junior Jedi Knights was.
Let me see.
You
Yes, Junior
own
Jedi Knights is.
you own Junior Jedi Knights?
I do. I found a bundle on Amazon for 3 that had all of them that basically came out to 3.99 each.
That's fantastic. That's a great deal.
That was back in 2016. They're not mint, right? They're definitely
Oh
used,
God, good luck.
but
Here's the thing. Here's a collector tip because I had 2 sets of Galaxy of Fear, and I sold one of them, and I didn't put the because it looks, in my opinion, my photos look like they were school books. Like
Mhm.
they were in decent shape. They were reader copies, and I put in the description reader copies. And some guy threw a tantrum on my eBay messenger, calling me names, saying I would have never paid this much money for reader copies. I'm like, you should have read the description, sir. And just threw a little hissy fit because that's how, like, the older the YA book, the more likely it's going to have pages falling out of it.
Mhm.
Kids just don't take care of books,
Mhm.
and oftentimes they get read over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Also, do you like my new setup with my Star Wars books?
I do. Before the stream, I commented on your stack of paperbacks.
Oh, this is right here. But I reorganized this shelving unit so I could put more books on it.
So one thing I remember talking to Chris about this. I made like a post or whatever somewhere. I can't remember. That was like how people organize their shelves, and like the unanimous consensus was that no, sorry. I sent a I wanted to make a meme, so I asked anyone, hey, does anyone have any photos of their collection that's like horrendously out of order, right? And no one had this, and I came to the realization of yeah, because everyone just puts them in chronological order.
I don't.
You don't?
No. What I do, because my books vary in size and that bothers me, and more so it bothers my fiance who has a bit of the OCD and likes the shelves to look pristine. Um, I have New Jedi Order with New Jedi Order. I will bundle series together and I will kind of put them in chronological order, but oftentimes I put them in alphabetical order by title.
Interesting. You're like the only one I've ever found that does that. Because
Oh
I've
yeah,
got
no, but my shelves just look as more aesthetically pleasing that way. I used to put them in chronological order, but things don't fit nicely when you do that. Especially when you have a lot of, like, the X-Wing series is in mass market paperback. That takes up way too much room. My Marvel omnibuses are all mixed together. They're
mm,
alphabetized because they all look good together. So I'm not going to pull the Star Wars ones out of that because I also have, like, the Aliens ones. I have Predator, Punisher, Alias, Daredevil. I have a bunch of those. I like the Marvel omnibuses. I think um, it's a great collector's piece, and they're actually made fairly well. It's like the only thing right now that's that and the Epic collections. Those are made well. The Essential Legends collections are terribly made.
mhm.
It's shocking how badly made they are.
They're really flimsy.
They're really
Uh,
flimsy. They feel like they're recycled. That
and
might.
the paper is super thin as well.
Uh-huh.
And they have all the other problems of um I went out on this most recent wave, right? Looking for hard contact Yoda Dark Rendezvous and Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void just because I wanted to see what was wrong with them, right? And I couldn't and for some reason they didn't have hard contact or Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void, but they had Yoda Dark Rendezvous. Um but Son of Luke, Ryan told me that on the thing of like because a lot of the Essential Legends collections at the very end of them have an excerpt from Light of the Jedi at the end of them, and he told me that on his copies that he has, Dawn of the Jedi, Into the Void, and Yoda Dark Rendezvous both have the excerpt from Light of the Jedi, whereas Hard Contact has one from Triple Zero, which is from what I've seen is kind of the case that the bigger series will have like the excerpts for like the next book in the series until you hit the last one, and then it's Light of the Jedi. But then like the standalone ones will all have Light of the Jedi for some reason. Again, why they're putting an excerpt of a canon book in the Essential Legends collection? I
Because
will
they want to
never
slow
understand.
down canon.
I know the actual reason, but why?
Well, here's the real shit kicker. The Insider collection short stories are
Mhm.
a third new canon.
Yep.
And they kind of sort of, as I recall, they're mixed together. I can't remember though. Um, Someone will correct me in the comments, but that was a real pisser. I remember that.
Oh, Rob D. So the Essential Legends should have been hardcover 3-in-1 related books. You're correct on that. Del Rey did do that for the Thrawn trilogy. But it's not a hardcover. It's just a 3-in-1 box set. Which, by the way, as of the 31st of May, it has been one entire year since Del Rey reprinted the Thrawn trilogy. So big props on this restraint there. Going an entire year without reprinting the Thrawn trilogy. I know that
You,
was very.
you know
very
what? I'm shocked. They haven't reprinted the Hand of Thrawn duology.
I know how.
They're reprinting Outbound Flight, which I'm very for, and
Survivor's Quest.
Survivor's Quest, which
Like
I
who
just
asked?
discovered that his Rebellion era duology has a name, and I can't remember what it's called.
I wonder if they're going to do that as
Oh,
well.
probably Allegiance and Choices of
They've
One.
done almost all of the Old Republic for some reason with Knight Errant. The only things left are the Lost Tribe of the Sith and Red Harvest, and they will have done all of the Old Republic books within the Essential Legends collection. Why I don't know.
It's for the MMO.
Knight Errant, they're making Knight Errant for the MMO.
Probably. The MMO is. Can we talk about the shit heap that is becoming the MMO?
Oh, they got I don't know the full story about this, but BioWare is like they're getting a like the rights are transferring basically. It's not going to be BioWare, they're going to another company, but a lot of the BioWare people are going to that company as well. I think is the new news. That's like as of a week ago.
What has BioWare done that's been good in a while?
I don't know.
What was the last thing they did? Mass Effect Andromeda?
Old Republic.
Oh, well, yeah, but I mean, that's free.
Technically free. All right, we've been rambling we've been stalling for Noah for half an hour.
I know. He's not showing up. My girlfriend's calling me, my fiance is calling me a nerd. Oh, here we go. The Insider Fiction collections do at least separate legends and new canon stories. Start in the front of the canon or in the back, and is. Thank you.
That is a lot more. That's a
You know,
lot nicer to know.
we were supposed to get a volume 3 of that, and they decided to make it High Republic only.
Interesting.
And okay, here's my thing. I'm going to go off on one more tangent before we get into the meat and potatoes here. High Republic is just a failure. They have shoved that in the faces of all the Star Wars fans for what, 2 years now, and no one cares.
Longer than that, technically longer than that, because they were hyping it up for like 2 years prior with their Project Luminous stuff.
Oh yeah, because they were dealing with this when Rise of Skywalker came out, right?
Yeah,
Because they knew Rise of Skywalker was bad, so they started hyping this shit up, and no one cares. No one cares about your identity politics. It's like it's just identity politics first, everything else second. No one wants that. No one wants your wannabe Old Republic stories. Like no one cares about your villains that all wear gas masks for some reason. Just no one cares.
see, I at least know I at least with High Republic, right, or with other stuff. I know about Aftermath because it was so bad that people complained about it. I know about The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker because it was so bad that people complained about it. And I know of like Lost Stars because it was so good that people praised it. I don't know anything about High Republic because it's like become such a non-factor that no one even talks about it.
Yeah.
I don't see like in like the few circles of like people who are still following canon, I don't see anyone actually talking about High Republic other than like the fact that it exists.
Well, you remember when a not Disney Star Wars book, Heart of the Jedi, was
Yeah.
outselling High Republic
Yes.
until they made it $1.99 on the Kindle store.
Yes. I may or may not have devoted destroyed my sleep schedule to get every 4 hours of Amazon snapshot data onto the Internet Archive to track its sales numbers. Getting 6 hours of sleep for 2 weeks straight, just so we would have those numbers.
I remember how obsessed you were about that.
It was the peak of my journalistic career.
Here's a good one here. Set the High Republic in a time when there's not supposed to be any major galactic conflicts, since episode 2 establishes that there's no full scale war. They don't care about the movies?
I need to find. I saw this interview. Oh, I need to find it. There was this interview with Dave Filoni where he essentially he said the quiet part out loud that like, yeah, we don't really care about continuity. We just want to tell good stories. Is essentially what he said. I
Well,
gotta find.
it should be changed to he cares about telling his story and he thinks
Right.
he's the second coming of Christ. I mean, he wants to tell his movie, his movie that is rumored to be the end of Mandalorian, but I bet you it's just an Ahsoka movie. It's Ahsoka and Bo-Katan, his second pet character.
Mhm.
Who, out of all of his characters, fucking Bo-Katan? Bo-Katan's lame. I at
Yeah.
least kind of get the Ahsoka, because she was a main character, but Bo-Katan over Cad Bane? I mean, personally, I would just want a Hondo movie, because he's the definition of a shitpost character.
All right, I found it. People get into all these debates of what's canon and what's not, and sometimes forget just the special nature of telling a good story and creating great characters. Part of the fan debate in the past always used to be what's canon, what's not, because there was George, and we always knew George was the canon. I look at it broadly and just say there's just a love of Star Wars because I knew George, I worked with him. None of us are going to be him, but we love the galaxy he created, and we are very much a product of it, growing up with it.
Okay. Let's get into the main topic here.
Yes. Oh, it's all fake anyway. There's that. Speaking of, by the way, the main topic, that's actually a good segue because I can
Yes.
talk about this one first. So, the main topic that we had, which we might get in trouble for, but oh well, is EU conspiracy theories. Like,
Okay.
what are stuff that's like have that we don't know for sure, but like we kind of maybe there's some evidence that like kind of points to this being the case. And the one that ties into Filoni that I have kind of come into contact recently or been champion is the fact that I don't think the story group in Lucasfilm considered TCW a part of the Legends continuity.
I would agree. Because are you talking because T canon was created?
So T canon was created, right? Back in the old continuity. They retroactively made an entire hierarchy of canon above what was C canon. and that hierarchy actively contradicted everything that was below it. We know that Pablo, prior to TCW, had said he wanted to reboot it, and we know when the decision of what made it out from Legends into the new canon was made, only TCW came in, right?
Mhm.
So that's all what we've known so far. But there's actually there's more recent evidence to back this up. So in the Essential Legends collection, right? 7 waves are out. One wave, we have official confirmation on what's going to be in it and the covers for it. And we have 2 waves that are just leaked. In that, we have gotten Shatterpoint in the very first wave, Yoda Dark Rendezvous, and we have confirmed books 1 and 2 of Republic Commando, with books 3 and 4 in the leaks.
Mhm.
There is not a single TCW tie-in novel within the first 10 waves of the Essential Legends collections, but there are 6 Clone Wars multimedia projects books in the Essential Legends collection. I I think, and we also we of course have the Force and Destiny unofficial retcon that
Mhm.
all it was all Imperial
More
propaganda,
propaganda.
Imperial propaganda. And again, we don't know for sure, right? But they don't seem to treat TCW as if it was a part of the Legends continuity, both back when EU was still ongoing and was the canon, and today.
The problem with this is that there are way too many
I know. The
next
problem the
TC.
problem with it is that it's not a fix because we still have to rectify all of the things that get contradicted and referenced within TCW.
Well, here's the thing. So you got Darth Plagueis, an entire plot of Fate of the Jedi, the series, just to
Mhm.
name a few. And this isn't to say like there are other things, because my big thing is that 2008 was a change
Mhm.
for the worse
Mhm.
for Star Wars. Um, you get your Force Unleashed and you got TCW.
Mhm.
Both are really dumbed down stories that contradict things.
That
Blake
actively break continuity. Not just
and
contradict, actively
also
break.
Invasion, the comic series,
Yes.
comes out around this time. And then later,
Wood
Brian
Wars.
Wood's Star Wars, which 2 tie-in novels, Razor's Edge and Honor Among Thieves. Honor Among Thieves blatantly has a contradiction to the Thrawn trilogy. Which, do you even know about that one?
I don't.
Oh, Han sees a Nogri and recognizes it as a
Oh,
Nogri.
of
He
course.
wouldn't know that. But then again, Zahn would contradict himself. Like after a while, it's like he forgot his own continuity. Which I also have a theory that certain authors were allowed to write about whatever they wanted, and the story group would try to fix it.
Yeah. Well, that's actually another one. But Rod D has one. Only 2 of the Maul TCW comics have been reprinted in Epic collections. None of the UK comic strips, the graphic novels, or web comics.
Not only that, those mall comics you're talking about are referenced in the new canon.
Hmm.
They are the only EU for both the new canon and Legends that Filoni respects,
Mm.
which is very bizarre. But then again, the reprinting, they've ignored all the kids' comics. They've ignored Clone Wars Adventures, the Gingy Tartakovsky spin-off comic. They've ignored the TCW kids comics. They've ignored Adventures, which is the OT version of the Clone Wars Adventures. Ewok's Shadow of Endor, which is another one. Like they've ignored all of those, like completely. And I don't think they'll ever get reprinted.
No.
I don't think there's enough people that care at this point. I thought they would just throw them in the omnibuses, but it's clear they're not going to, which is a shame. Lord. I'm trying to think of some.
So I have another one that we kind of brought up. Let's talk about Chile.
You obviously haven't heard of him.
So there's this thought, this brand of thinking within the last few years that's kind of come into vogue that maybe what we previously thought about Leland Chi wasn't correct. That he wasn't necessarily the continuity cop because, and that his role was more of just like he was the keeper of the holocron, but that doesn't mean that his job was to make it all work. He was just chronicling it all, right?
Mm.
Because Leland Chi came to Lucasfilm. He started in LucasArts as a game tester, and then in 2000 got moved over to handling the continuity. And even then, like we didn't, didn't really start showing up in like interviews and stuff until like 2005, 2006. Prior to that, it was always the Super Stonies, it was the Steve Sansweets, and the authors who were the main not continuity people, but also it like Leland Chi, he was a resource for authors, right? But he never told them that they couldn't do something, right? He didn't have like I think a lot of people thought maybe for a while that he had the authority to like just say no, but like he kind of didn't. He would everything that he quote unquote fixed was always like retroactive. It was not like proactive.
Yeah.
So the thought that he was again the continuity cop, I don't think is true. I think he was just the lore guy, and then he had a reactive, not a proactive role.
I think Super Stony was the one who would tell people no
Yeah.
and would be the voice of George when George would do something. But then again, like I said earlier, there were a handful of authors that could write whatever they wanted,
Hmm.
for better or for usually for worse.
Yes.
Which do we want to get into that?
Sure.
I mean, number one's Timothy Zahn could write whatever he wanted. Next is Troy Denning, could write whatever he wanted. The other one, it changed. That's Karen Travis. Karen
Hmm.
Travis could write whatever she wanted until Dave Filoni came in.
Hmm. Well, that was
Which,
her decision too. That at least from her side of it, she was the one that said, "Excuse me, I can't make this work. I'm just going to stop writing." At least, which again, the only archived version of the series of events that led to her not writing Star Wars anymore is her accounts because of the old StarWars.com forums. But according to her, it was her decision to not write because Star Wars because the continuity had gotten so out of whack that she could not reconcile with it, and she didn't want to start over and like refit it into what TCW was doing.
yeah, it's not like like people who don't like the expanded universe claim that any author could write whatever they wanted.
Hmm.
That's really not true. I'm sure. I think it takes a lot of seniority
Hmm.
and selling well. I think Drew Karpyshyn could write whatever he wanted. After a while, because the Old Republic is his brainchild.
Hmm.
Like as a whole, that whole time space in the timeline, that's all mainly him.
But that's kind of a more of a late issue because again, he didn't start actually writing the Old Republic books. I mean, there's the Darth Bane, which was just supposed to be one book until it sold really well. Because Darth Bane came out in 2006, and then Rule of Two didn't come out until 2008, I believe, and then 2009 was Dynasty of Evil. Even people that you would think would have a lot of sway, like James Luceno, he approached Del Rey with the idea for Dark Plagueis in like 2007 or 2008, and they didn't greenlight it until 2012.
Mhm.
So even the authors that had the sway and stuff, they still they still had to go through Del Rey, and like they and were still at the whim of Del Rey, essentially, to get their projects green light.
I can say this about Troy Denning: he's friends with a lot of people. When I met Margaret Weiss, big fan of Troy Denning, great friends with him for decades. He seems like a nice enough guy. Star by Star, my least favorite New Jedi Order book.
Really interesting.
There's things I like about it, but I don't like the Voxen. I'm just gonna just throw that out there. I just don't care for that. I don't like that it's aliens, the movie in Star Wars.
I I kind of agree to that because I don't like the fact that I think the power scaling with the Voxen is off because they're supposed to be these super badass Jedi hunters that are hunting down Jedi, and then in the course of the Merc mission, they probably kill like 100 of them, like in like their journey to get to the Voxen Queen, and the whole thing of like, yeah, they can genetically engineer at like whatever they wanted, but like the Voxen, no, they have to clone it from the Queen. Once the Queen dies, then they can't clone anymore. But then like the Voxen keeps showing up later in New Jedi Order, and it's always just like, oh yeah, these are still Voxen left over, but like they're slowly decaying, but they're still. Don't worry,
Aren't there Voxen in the Legacy comics?
I don't think so. I think they were all dead by then.
Oh no, I'm thinking. I'm sorry. I'm thinking the Hand of Thrawn 45 fanfic, Sword of the Jedi,
Oh,
where they run into Voxen on Yavin 4 at the Jedi Temple. That even though it was leveled, because that makes sense. But no, Troy Denning, I think he has a great like knowledge of the continuity, but changing the point of New Jedi Order is really frustrating and it's kind of unforgivable.
hmm
Dark Nest is awful.
yes,
Dark Nest is the might be the worst Star Wars trilogy that that Sci-Fi Book Club ever released. Um, and what an awful transition to Legacy of the Force. Legacy of the Force, 1/3 a good series. The all Aaron Alston books are fine. I don't know. I don't know. Uh, what a terrible pick 3 random Star Wars authors to make a trilogy. Aaron Alston, Karen Travis, not even a trilogy, 9 books, 3 trilogies. Aaron Alston, Karen Travis, and Troy Denning. They just don't mesh well together.
is Dark Nest worse than Callista trilogy and the Bounty Hunter Wars? Well, 2/3 of the Callista trilogy is unreadable, so that's an unfair comparison because Dark Nest is at least readable. Um,
Actually, I'd rather read Dark Nest over Bounty Hunter Wars.
yeah, Dark. The thing that's bad with uh, again all of the quote unquote bad Legacy of the Force authors, Denning into Denning has this ability to write really memorable scenes sometimes that have like
Yes.
are really nice and like cathartic. Again, the best scene in all of Dark Nest, in my opinion, is the one where Jason like essentially lobotomizes Tenelka's grandmother with the Force, just because it's so like after all the all the shit she put them through in Young Jedi Knights, it was nice to finally see her comeuppance. As messed up as the fact that it was Jason doing it, it was somewhat passable because like okay, finally someone made this. She got her comeuppance, right?
But then you have a bug orgy.
Yeah.
Also,
Oh,
offhanded sexual comments in books. Leia saying that that her daughter should have a threesome What mother says that? Let alone Leia saying that.
That's not even the worst one. The worst one is still Tahiri and Ben, which
Well,
actually is
yeah,
another conspiracy
I
theory.
was gonna go there because
Okay,
everyone knows that, but
so this is another recent one, right? Uh, I think it started with Meg reviews talking about how Tahiri. It feels like in the Legacy of the Force, like they treat Tahiri as if she's late teens, early 20s. Like she's very immature. She's not herself, but she's very immature. She's still very much like the the kid basically of the group when like she's supposed to be 30 and like get past that. And there's been a theory that maybe Karen Travis and Troy Denning, because they're the ones that primarily wrote her, forgot how old she was supposed to be and thought she was still like 18 to 20 in that trilogy. And then that kind of explains why Troy Denning thought he could get away with that scene.
also her character arc in Fate of the Jedi is stupid.
Yeah.
That is the worst part of Fate of the Jedi. Tahiri is a waste of a character. I'm just going to throw it out there. Tahiri, great in Junior Jedi Knights, great in New Jedi Order. Some interesting ideas, I guess, in Legacy of the Force. I like flow walking. I know some people think that that's bizarre, but that's like up my alley of weird Star Wars. And the fact that Jason can manipulate her with flow walking, that's interesting by itself. But she's not. It's like she's stunted. It's
Mhm.
like she lost her mind after Anakin's death.
But like this is the thing that's infuriating with Tahiri is that they use that character arc twice of her sorry, three times of her getting over Anakin's death, because it happens in the Force Heretic trilogy and the New Jedi Order when she has like a for lack of a better term, she has like a schizo like mind break with like her and like the arena personality that end up merging and they become like a whole new person, right? And you think, oh, okay, that's the end of it. She's gonna move on and she's gonna be, the one that like the Jedi that's like gonna work more closely with the Vong and get them integrated into society and to be like their activists in like the post Jedi future. But no, she had then come Legacy of the Force, you're over halfway through it, and it's like she relapsed and like can't get over Anakin again until the series ends and she realizes, oh, it was bad for me to go to the dark side. I'm finally over him, whatnot. And then you have Fate of the Jedi, where it's like, well, you're on trial for all the stuff you did in the Legacy of the Force, and she still can't get over Anakin's death. Like, how many
And she's
times do
a
we have to go
dumb
through?
bounty hunter now.
How many times do we have to go through the same character arc? I've seen it. We don't need to see it 3 times in a row. It's so unsatisfying.
I'm just of the. I'm not. That's one character that should have just died.
Yeah, I think I said this somewhere, but
She
it's
should not have been in Fate of the Jedi. Period. I
yeah.
think she should have died in Legacy of the Force.
Um, yeah, because there's just not enough you can do with her. Like after post Anakin's death, there's not a lot you can really do with her.
And she's a main character. And that's so frustrating to me. And then like the whole Sword of the Jedi fanfic thing, she and Ben are teaming up. That's a whole thing in that first book. Is like they're like not quite equals, but they're not master and apprentice. But she's like teaching him. And it's just freaking weird. Eh, I don't know. That's fanfic. Fanfic is typically not important.
Do you have any conspiracy theories? I know we talked about a few in the lead up to this.
Well, I mean, the falling out between Dark Horse and Del Rey during New Jedi Order,
Hmm.
which we've talked about before a little bit, with Randy Stradley
Yeah,
being a baby back bitch. I don't have wrote a great comic called Crimson Empire. I think he did a terrible, terrible job with the Dark Horse Star Wars IP. I think he horribly mismanaged it um, for a very long time, and it is 100% his fault that Dark Horse lost the rights to Star Wars.
Um, I'll disagree on that. Just on the fact that I think with Disney already owning Marvel,
Yeah,
that even if Dark Horse was in a better place, I still think that transition happens. But he made that argument a lot easier.
I mean, he wrecked the Star Wars IP. He took Dark Horse's bread and butter and he made it unsellable. Star Wars made Dark Horse. They had the aliens. They had aliens. They had Predator. Those were big sellers. But it was then they had like Hellboy and Sin City, and I think the Max. But it's Star Wars that made them bank. Dark Empire in particular
Hmm.
made them a lot of money. It's so funny. I've been reading Lightsider,
Hmm.
and it's funny to read something that old because Tom Veach had some wild ideas that I really like. I mean, the version I'm reading now has been changed to make it fit in the continuity. But his idea that Cam Sasalier came from another galaxy, that's wild. That's fun. He was truly a visionary for Star Wars. It's a real shame what happened with him.
That's another conspiracy because I don't think we know for sure that the I don't think it's ever been confirmed that the reason he left was because of the Knights of the Old Republic games, allegedly wanting to make the character passable to Sean Bean, a Sunrider. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not.
I don't know either. Um, he was very upset with them till the day he died. Was very upset with them. He was writing a Star Wars book, and it was about his time at Dark Horse, writing a book about it. I remember getting really excited, and it's like, oh, he's writing a memoir. About how bad things got, and it's a shame. It's a real shame what happened. That
Yeah,
might be the worst falling out of a Star Wars author. We could say Karen Travis, but I mean, Tom Veach was actually a good author.
there's I don't know if there's anything to substantiate this as well, but there's also a theory that Michael Stackpole stopped writing Star Wars after Dark Tide because of the changes Del Rey wanted him to make to Dark Tide, and like he ended it by like saying like I'll make it a duology but not a trilogy, and then after that I'm done because we know for a fact that it was originally a trilogy that they had like edits for him that he didn't agree with, and then he negotiated it down to a duology, and then he never wrote for Del Rey again. Whether or not that was Del Rey's decision or his decision, I don't know. But
Yeah. Here's a theory. Here's a theory here. New Jedi Order was a testing ground of what authors they would keep,
interesting. Okay.
and who they would go forward with. Because it is the most diverse set of authors that Del Rey's ever had. It's 19 books. And a lot of those authors didn't go on to do anything else other than New Jedi Order.
Hmm.
There are some that were solely brought on for New Jedi Order, like your Greg Keys. I
Elaine Cunningham, Walter John Williams, Shane Dix, technically, because he only wrote The Force Heretic with Sean Williams, but they kept Sean Williams, but not Shane.
but at the same time, Matthew Stover,
Hmm.
James Estino, people got there.
Well, James Luceno was the one who came, who with Shelley Shapiro had the idea to do New Jedi Order. So he was of the authors, the head of it, essentially.
Well, I mean, there was the idea that Zahn and Kevin J. Anderson had for the what became Kevin J. Anderson's Saga of the Seven Sons series with the Sith that were hiding on Bespin.
Mm-hmm.
I think is what it was.
Yeah, and then George told him no Sith.
Yeah, I think it's the best decision.
I did too.
I mean, they were building to that. They were building to that way back in Crimson Empire 2. Which that ends up being Nomanar.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really weird. Have you ever read Crimson Empire 2?
I have. I've read 3 as well.
Oof, I'm sorry.
3 is so bad. I say this all the time, but I was really invested into 3 until the time when Kirikano said, "Next, I will kill Luke Skywalker," and I went, "Well, that's not happening." And then it was all.
Well, Luke doesn't act like Luke, and Leia doesn't act like Leia. It's the strangest thing. And Han's barely there. He's on some sort of galactic campaign of like the Outer Rim or some nonsense. And he looks miserable. He looks like Harrison Ford does now. Looks like a sleepy grandpa. That's Crimson Empire 3. It's too little too late. It doesn't even follow up what Council of Blood was setting up. Because they didn't have to anymore. There's no Nomanar. There's just...
Well, it also came out because, again, Crimson Empire and Crimson Empire 2 both came out in the Bantam era, but Crimson Empire 3 came out in, like, what, 2007, 2008-ish, I want to say? Was it later? When was? I have the
like
internet at my fingertips.
The early 2010s. One of the last things. And it never got its own release. It was released solely to sell that hardcover. The Crimson Empire trilogy hardcover. Do you remember that?
October 26, 2011. So yeah, over a decade after the fact, they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll revisit this story." Maybe that's why it doesn't continue, because they didn't remember where they left the story off of.
Is it Randy Stradley who wrote it?
I think it was.
Well, at least he wrote all 3 of them.
I just had it open and I clicked off. Writers, Mike Richardson and Randy Stradley. According to Wikipedia. I have to say that every time, according to Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is unfortunately no longer a reliable source on these things. But
Maxwell, you are the first person I've ever heard say Crimson Empire 3. I'm glad someone likes it. It's better than a lot of what was coming out at the time. Well, actually, I don't know. We were still dealing with the end of Legacy at that point.
I think Legacy War was over by then. Legacy War was 2010, I believe.
I don't remember. Knight Errant was happening. I know that. What the great classic known as Knight Errant.
Yes.
Does anyone like Knight Errant? That's my real question, except for John Jackson Miller.
No, Legacy War was December of 2010 to May of 2011.
Okay. So we were almost done. It's weird. I don't have any more EU conspiracies.
Really? Because you had... well, I guess ones we've talked about on the podcast before is the Pablo Hidalgo didn't write the Reader's Companion.
Oh, yeah. I went on a rant about that. Pablo Hidalgo doesn't do shit. Doesn't do anything except for troll people on Twitter.
And how Jude Watson might have more books than she actually wrote.
And have a terrible mustache. He has the worst mustache I have ever seen in my life.
Have you seen the Goodreads, Alex Wheeler's Goodreads page?
No? Oh no. Are we gonna have to share screen?
I have to find it.
Alex Wheeler. Have we talked about worst pet characters on the podcast?
No, I'm not finding it. I know some of you guys are in chat who know what. Does anyone in chat know what I'm talking about and has the link? Uh, Put it on one of the discords and tell me where it is. Where is the oh. Uh, this is great audio. Just
I know. I'm sorry. My brain's very tired right now.
oh, is it the IMDb? No,
Why would it be an IMDb?
I don't know.
Dylan.
Alex Wheeler, author.
Yes. Just write Alex Wheeler Rebel Force. Just look up Rebel Force on the
I am.
Goodreads. Why didn't you do that to begin with?
Oh, it's Amazon.
Oh my god. Quinlan Voss. I didn't know
no.
that Night Errant Influx existed. I'll have to read it.
No, it's the screenshot's wrong because the Alex Wheeler one doesn't have an image. But if you scroll all the way down, it says customers also bought by, and then there's Jude Watson, Ryder Winham, Kevin J. Anderson, Timothy Zahn, Terry Bisson, and K.W. Jeter.
What are you trying to say? What is happening? I am deeply confused as to what's going on.
So there's a supposed picture from one of the websites that like has book reviews that's like has Alex Wheeler, and on his profile picture it's Jude Watson's profile picture, and I can't figure out where it is, which one it is. Yeah, it's not Goodreads, it's not Amazon. I don't know.
Maybe it's thrift books. Who knows? Or
Point being, we don't know if Alex Wheeler is actually a real person, which is weird because like, why? Like, I get the point, right? Of like within science fiction of like the old thinking that like people don't want to read a science fiction book by a woman, right? That's why AC Crispin is AC Crispin and not Anne Carroll Crispin, right? Uh, but why would Jude Watson and why with Rebel Force when Jude Watson has already written Jedi Apprentice, Jedi Quest, Lost, like so the most prolific young readers author ever. Why at the very end would you give her a pen name?
and that's the whole thing is I always look at it like Stephen King to Richard Bachman. Richard Bachman books are very different from Stephen King books. Rebel Force is not different from like Last of the Last of the Jedi. They all feel the same.
Brennan is saying it's an older version of the website. Okay, so they've edited it, I guess, since people figured it out. Who knows?
Also, isn't Jude Watson like a recluse and hard to get a hold of?
Maybe, I don't know.
There's certain authors that are really hard. I know John Whitman's really hard to get a hold of because he doesn't write anymore. He has a gym. Oh, is Dylan frozen? Oh boy. Oh boy, connectivity issues. There he is. He's back. He's heavy breathing. Oh my god. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, did my internet cut out again?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thanks to our wonderful sponsor, Comcast. It's been like
Comcast isn't even my internet provider anymore. We don't get that up here. I have
yeah,
Charter Spectrum.
they changed their name to something else now.
Who? Comcast?
Yeah.
It's Xfinity. It's under Xfinity. I used to have one. I was in college, but now I don't. They don't come up this far north.
Who am I most looking forward to meeting at Legends Con? The easy answer is Stover. Um,
That's gonna be wild. You'll need to conduct an interview.
I don't know if I can. We will try. Um, I don't know if I can say this yet.
Okay,
I
then
won't.
don't say it.
I
Don't
won't.
say it. Don't say it.
Well, Brian and I are already going to be there, right? But I don't know if we'll be able to interview anyone. Is what I'll say,
Okay.
or at least film an interview, I should say. But I'll definitely try to meet every. It'll be really awkward when I go up to Barbara Hempley and try to get her to sign my 2 paperbacks of her books.
It'd be interesting if any of them have ever seen the Legends podcast.
I highly doubt it.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's the thing. We're ranked really highly on Amazon Podcast.
Why? Who listens to this?
On Audible. No, this is my money maker, dude. This is the thing that no one gives a flying fuck about most of what I post. But they give a shit about the Legends podcast.
Hey.
I'll take it. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, that's right. Abel Japania is going to be there as well.
Ooh. I might have to send you my unofficial copy of Skywalkers.
No.
For signing. I'll ship it to you.
Sure. Sorry, I was saying no to the chat, not you.
Okay, I'll ship it to you. You have to be careful with that, though. Not very many that exist. And I cannot say how I got it. Like with certain things in my collection.
Right. Escape from Dagu and what are some other ones? Memories of Mortis and
The Dave Filoni's Book of the Kama Sutra.
Dave Filoni's homework folder.
Remember that weird? There's a weird art book that has like a bunch of porn, Star Wars porn art in it, but it has a continuity. George Lucas made part of it canon because it depicts Vader and Ahsoka facing off.
All I will say about the Dave Filoni thing is I find it very interesting that the older Ahsoka got, the more clothes she was wearing.
Yeah. But you notice that she has childlike Leku in the live action.
Yes.
I think that's laziness, though.
Oh yeah, they're.
Those TV shows are so cheap and bad.
Yes, I've said at length of this. I don't think live action Star Wars belongs on TV. I don't think TV has the budget to do live action Star Wars justice.
HBO could.
Well, that's HBO.
The thing is, I think everyone expected Disney Plus to be like HBO.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Have you seen the Peter Pan and Wendy movie, everyone? It is the ugliest Disney movie I have ever seen. And I've seen Mars Needs Moms, which I thought was the ugliest Disney project I had ever seen. Peter Pan and Wendy, though? You think Peter Pan, you think of the Disney movie from way back, Dylan, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've seen that? You know how bright and colorful it was? No, everything's desaturated gray.
Well, that's just modern Hollywood these days.
But like at least like the previous Disney remakes weren't completely desaturated. This looks like trash. It looked like the Willow show. Everyone, I can't bring it up enough how bad the Willow show was. That might be the worst thing Lucasfilm's ever made. Which I can't wait for them to make THX 113 2.
No, they're gonna make American Graffiti 2 next.
They can't. That's owned by Universal.
They're gonna buy
There already
Universal.
is an American Graffiti too.
There is?
Yeah, it came out after Star Wars.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Lucas was a producer. No one cared about it. No, they'll make a American Graffiti Revelations.
They're gonna. This is Disney. They're gonna buy Universal like they bought 20th Century Fox because uh, all of the all of the like anti monopoly laws of the early 20th century are just don't exist anymore, I guess. And then
Well,
they're gonna do that just to make American Graffiti. They're not gonna call it two. They're just gonna rename it American Graffiti again because that's just what they do. They just
you know what they'll do? You know, we just need to clone Theodore Roosevelt, make him president again, and he'll fight the he'll fight monopolies because he's the last president that did anything about it. He has a tie to Lucasfilm. He was in the Young Indiana Jones series where 9-year-old Indy told him, "You shouldn't shoot the elephant. It deserves to live too." That was an episode of Young Indiana Jones,
wow.
and it was fucking awful. It was nowhere near as good as the time when Indiana Jones ran away with Leo Tolstoy. That was a good one. Don't watch Young Indiana Jones if you're thinking it's going to be good. It's like 80% trash. You hope for a World War One story, and you just hope because that's the only good stuff for the most part. Or the one episode where Harrison Ford shows up as Indiana Jones. That one's pretty good. But hey, it got put on Disney Plus finally.
Yep.
They had to put they had to fill a void where the Willow show was. But anyway, what are you reading, Dylan?
I'm still reading Shadow Games.
Okay. We talked about the audio drama's been listening to. Um, which this actually ties into a little bit of what I'm reading. I've taken a break from the Indiana Jones novels, Marcel, and I'm reading the Indiana Jones comics. I'm reading Indiana Jones Thunder in the Orient, which is a direct sequel to Fate of Atlantis. I don't like the indie girl. She's a psychic. I don't think it needs to be put in Indiana Jones. That doesn't need to be a thing. But she was kind of a favorite character, because she shows up in Indiana Jones the Infernal Machine video game too. So she's in like at least 3 different Indiana Jones stuff. I don't know. I have issues with a lot of Indiana Jones love interests. I just think that they're not good characters, especially his wife, not Marion, the Deidre Campbell, who's that's a thing in one of the Indiana Jones novels. He gets married. She's a boring character. But yeah, no, there's a reason Marion Ravenwood works so well, and the rest don't really.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have issues with that. But Star Wars wise, what am I reading? I'm reading Lightsider, and I'm digging it. I'm also reading Jedi Apprentice, uh, book 5, which is Keepers of the Dead, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'll tell you what, Dylan, those Jedi Apprentice books, they are not written for kids. They're written at like a 4th grade reading level, but the subject matter is for adults. The whole premise of this one is that Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are sent to this planet called Melinda Dawn, and there's the Dawn and the Melinda. And they're 2 different peoples, and they are the whole planet's in civil war, and these people have been killing one another for generations, and they don't even know why they're killing one another. It's just they want revenge against one another. And there's all these graveyards of people with hollows saying, "Avenge me as I've avenged my family." And like it's just wild. And there's like all these kids that don't want, like, from both sides that have kind of formed their own faction underground
Mm-hmm.
and are like, "We don't want to do this anymore." Literally, it's just elderly people and young people. Everyone else is dead. Like they keep killing one another. And I think it's fascinating for a children's book. It's just wild. It's like if Shatterpoint was written better. Because that whole thing, you've read Shatterpoint, right, Dylan?
Yes.
With the summertime war is what it is. And they've just been that's the big conflict going on.
Yeah, I forgot what it was called, but yeah.
And it's something, it's like it's so Irish in its name. It's like the Troubles.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just an allegory for Vietnam. It's the Vietnam Star Wars book. This just feels better than that. Like it just feels smarter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Uh, Shatterpoint wallows in war porn for like the second half of the book. It's just war, continuous war for like 100 pages, and it's not interesting until Mace Windu finally has this confrontation at the end with oh god, who is that Jedi?
Deepa, who
Depa
like
Billaba, yeah.
yeah,
And his weird cousin or whatever from his tribe was
yeah,
like a dark side user.
yeah, and he ends up killing him, and then Deepa goes to the Jedi Temple for like uh to heal, I guess, or like
Mhm.
recover her mind, but then we never figure out what happens to her.
I always okay,
She's
here's a
probably killed in Order 66.
no, here's my theory. We
Mm.
never saw it. She would be perfect inquisitor.
Mm.
Easy to manipulate because she lost her mind. It would not take much for like Vader to manipulate her and make her into an inquisitor. Because I could see her fighting alongside Jarek, for instance, or Inquisitor Tremaine.
I think she was too far gone for that.
Maybe.
Like I don't. If she was in the temple, I don't see why the clones would just spare her. I think they would have just shot on sight. You know?
Well, where was she in the temple? That's the whole thing. That it's like she's put in a prison in
Yeah.
the temple, which that's like the only time that's ever mentioned.
Is it?
Well, aside from TCW, but
Right. Well, the temple's always had a medical wing. I assume she was in that.
maybe I don't know. I don't know, but you know what they did with her in the new canon, right?
I don't want to know.
It's actually not terrible. She has Kanan from Rebels. That's his
Oh,
master. She leaves the council to take on a Padawan.
why?
I don't know. She gets a death scene though in Bad Batch, which retcons the Kanan comic.
Well, continuity doesn't matter to the new canon. Remember?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. We'll take some questions, I guess. Um,
I can't wait for us to be like an hour into the post show of us just talking, and then Noah just being like, "What did I miss?"
Yeah, he hasn't responded at all. He's not awake. It would have been nice for him to show up.
Oh well.
Here's a good one. Star Wars Visions is the porn book Jeremy is referring to. I heard it's only one singular graphic image in the whole art book. But yeah, Ahsoka's demise depicted in there. Okay. I thought it was more than one. I know George Lucas had a boner for Ayla Sakura. That's
Yeah.
who doesn't, let's be real. She's the fan service Jedi.
One of many. He had a thing for Twi'leks too. It's always Twi'leks. His kid was a Twi'lek. Um,
Which one of his kids was the Twi'lek?
one of his daughters in the scene where Anakin Revenge of the Sith is like going to like the opera.
Oh yeah, that's Katie. Him and Katie.
Yeah.
Because he's also in there and he's blue.
Yeah. And then he also liked Darth Talon to the point that he wanted a story where Maul came back, like they were in the same Maul and Darth Talon were in the same story somehow.
And it was going to be. I heard some stupid thing about this that it was going to be like New Republic era, and Leia was going to be fighting them, and she was Chancellor. But I think that's just fan nonsense.
Yeah.
Magneto Alex, my week was wild. I was horribly ill last weekend. I almost asphyxiated on my vomit. I got the worst stomach flu I had ever had. Like blood came out, like I vomited so much, and it wasn't until yesterday that I finally felt well enough to leave the house. This was an okay week. Dylan, how about you?
It's been okay, I guess. Just work and not really much of anything else.
It's okay, Alex. Don't worry about me. I survived. Um, I'm so tired of dumb Disney. I watched a whole video on Disney straight to VHS sequels. Like someone sat and watched them all. That wasn't me. You ever
Mhm.
sat and done that, Dylan?
Oh, watch one of those. I watched all of X so you don't have to videos.
Yeah.
Yes. I saw one about the Land Before Time.
Oh God, yeah. I didn't realize there were like 15 of those.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I've seen at least 8 of them.
I know.
Because like we were the right age for that.
I
It's
I the only one I remembered was the one that had the big water song. Because that song is occupied space in my brain since I was 7, and I don't know why.
I don't remember any of the songs. I just remember the song from the original
Mhm.
sings.
Well, everyone remembers the opening of the original because it's borderline traumatizing. But
Okay, I'll tell you what. Land Before Time, the backgrounds really nicely animated.
Mhm.
The dinosaurs look terrible. They just look weird. Um, I don't know. Have you seen the Land Before Time where they were aliens?
Oh.
That's one of them. It's still not good. But anyway, let's save us from this. Rob D has asked a question. Do you Legends New Jedi Order will what? Do you think?
No, I think I know what he's saying.
Okay. What is being conveyed? I'm
Do you
sorry.
think the EU's version of the New Jedi Order will be wiped out with the new movie coming out? No, I think what'll happen is what happened with Battlefront and Battlefront 2, where people, when they're referring to the 2004, 2005 Battlefronts, they will say classic Battlefront. When they're referred to the EA ones, they will say EA Battlefront. I think something similar to that will happen, where
Or you
when
say
people,
trash.
yeah, where
For-
people will make the distinction of the the New Jedi Order movie, the New Jedi Order books. I think that will happen. I think search results are going to be terrible. You'll have to specify New Jedi Order Legends or New Jedi Order book series.
Thank you, Rob D. Sorry, my brain is very tired. I forgot what reading was. Um, yeah. I think honestly, more people will read the New Jedi Order books and like them more.
Yeah.
Or the post 9/11 Star Wars story.
Pre 9/11, because 9/11 didn't happen until the very end.
Was it 2000 when they
It
started?
was night. It was 1999. It ended in 2003. Actually, in the author roundup at the very end, Shelley Shapiro, I think, says that uh, had they basically had they known 9/11 was going to happen, that they may have like tried to not make it as dark, because for a lot of readers it was like um it was like it was books and stuff were like an escape from reality, and then after 9/11 happened, like they could no longer, people were complaining that it was like I guess um
Everything was dark after 9/11.
yeah.
We're still suffering from post 9/11 cinema. It's like get the it sucked. We got to move on. We can't be stuck there. But then again, music stuck in the 90s and the barf-filled 90s where Matt Wilkins gets his terrible musical taste from. Like Weezer. Weezer's bad. I have this might be the most hot takes I have ever said in an episode of the Legends podcast, Dylan.
The first New Jedi Order book that happened after
Doesn't
9/11,
give
oh
a
my gosh, was Star by Star. What a I get why people were complaining.
Oh, look who it is.
Hey,
You fuck rat.
I
Twice.
said I may join if I wake up in time, and I didn't wake up in time.
Get out of here.
All right, conspiracy theories, go. EU conspiracy theories. What do you got?
Conspiracy theories?
Yes.
Man, I don't know.
The stuff that's like Alex Wheeler is actually Jude Watson, stuff like that.
Okay. You already mentioned Pablo probably not writing anything, like the Reader's
Yes.
Companion. Okay. What is a good conspiracy theory?
You waking up on time.
Okay, I have one.
Okay.
I hope that counts. Like we said last time, I'm just gonna bring this up again. Darla in Fate of the Jedi was written as an insult to Karen Travis by Alston and Denning.
Maybe all of anything Karen Travis came up with, he gets shit on in Fate of the Jedi.
Troy Denning was out to destroy the Star Wars continuity from day one.
Yeah,
don't know.
I would agree with that. He already murdered characters in Star by Star, his first book.
Yeah.
So with Troy, I don't think it was malice. I think it was incompetence.
I think it was malice because we have confirmation like he knew about the different direction the stories after NJO could have taken, and he decided against it. He confirmed that in an interview, so I think it is malice.
We talked earlier about there were a handful of authors that could write whatever they wanted. It said Troy Denning was one of them.
Yeah, because Sura Stoney loved him. Sura Stoney was the actual villain. I've realized this in the last couple of days.
Really?
Maybe this is a theory, but I think it's confirmed. She loved Troy Denning. She said Dark Nest was the best Star Wars story ever.
Are you sure about this? This wasn't a fever dream you had?
No, she said that apparently, and apparently on the old forums, because Legacy of the Force was always controversial, how dark it was. Apparently on the forums or something, she told fans to suck it up, like they wouldn't change just because some fans complained about dark tone. And it makes perfect sense because once Sura Stoney left in like, when was it, 2011, 12ish?
Yeah.
They announced, and Jennifer Heddle took over, and they said, okay, we're going to stop with big 9 book series, and we're going to do duologies, standalones, and trilogies. And that's when we got Mercy Kill by Alston, like the first X-Wing book in fucking decades. And they also announced, I don't know if I told you guys, there was actually going to be a trilogy written by Aaron Alston, Michael Stackpole, and Timothy Zahn.
Yeah, you've told. I've heard about that.
Yeah, I had not heard that.
Yeah, that was in the works, actually. Like, it's amazing. Near the end. But then it was put on hold because of the Disney buyout. And it was Alston, Stackpole, and Zahn working together to write, like, a trilogy of Corran Horn family stories. So one set, like, during the Clone Wars, probably, about Anija Halcyon, then one for Corran, and then one for Corran's son, Valen.
That's a character that doesn't get used.
Yeah, but that sounds so bizarre, but,
Well,
but
he's-
kind of amazing.
He's in some stuff. He goes crazy in Fate of the Jedi, and he's essentially sent on a suicide mission with Kyle Katarn when they decide, oh yes, we will take down Jason with 1 Jedi Master and 3 Padawans who don't know what the hell they're doing against the guy who ended the war with the Yushin Vong by killing Onimi, by becoming like a literal Force god. Yes, that's a completely fair fight.
Doesn't Kyle Katarn get a speeder thrown at him?
Yes, Kyle Katarn wins the fight, but he loses because a speeder hits him. I've actually said this. So throughout the course of Legacy of the Force, Jason fights 4 masters. He fights Luke a few times. He fights Kyle Katarn. He fights Mara, and he fights Saba. Of those 4, Saba is the only one he beats, like fair and square. And even then, he had 2 YVH droids helping him, but like she dispatched them pretty quickly, so it was a 1-on-1. With Kyle had him down, and like at the end of his sword, with the blade of his lightsaber at his throat until a speeder hits him, and like he's knocked out. Mara, same thing, was like 1 swipe away from ending it when he used a force projection to like replace his face with the one of Ben, so she would hesitate just long enough so she could shoot him with a poison dart. And in the Luke fight, the one in Revelations, he was again going to win, but like he had to hold Ben back from like killing Jason, and like, no, we have to go, and just left him. So he fights 4 Jedi Masters and only beats 1 of them technically, but is the big villain of the series.
And I'm shocked he even beat Saba Sabatine.
Oh yeah, Troy's ultimate pet character.
But Troy had Saba lose to him fair and square, so. Whereas Alston had Kyle beat him and then lost, and then Travis was the Luke and Ben fight that Luke had to hold back Ben to not kill him. There's only that's a good one. There's only 1 surviving copy of Escape from Dagu, and it's owned not Christopher Nelson. I'm almost certain we know for sure that William C. Dietz does have the 1 copy of Escape from Dagu. I think that's been confirmed, and he just doesn't want to release it because of he doesn't think he can legally. I think that's the official story. I don't know.
You should release it to my collection, where I will pretend like it doesn't exist, like it did with. I wonder, do you all trust me at this point after the whole Lightsider thing? People in the comments, do you trust Dylan? You shouldn't trust Dylan. Look at that face. Look at
What
that
do you mean?
that hair. You can't trust someone with hair like that. Here. I'm long haired, Dylan. It doesn't quite work. I'm too greasy at the moment.
I like
You-
that you both knew about Lightsider for years, and like a couple of weeks after I learned about it, everybody knew. The news just spread.
See, the thing
Is
was,
that a conspiracy theory? I think someone brought it up because of me already spreading it around. Like Joe was forced to release it earlier.
Well, it got released on accident early.
yes, Matt had an article that came out prematurely, and then it had to get taken down.
And I don't know if I've ever seen you so pissed, Dylan. You were genuinely upset about that.
No, Chris was upset about that.
That's who it was. Chris was pissed. And you told me immediately when it happened.
Yeah.
And of course, I told Matthew and Adam.
100% yes.
Adam didn't know what was going on.
See, that's the thing, Rob D. Your problem is you bought a used car. I worked in the mechanic business for 2.5 years. I can say
That's a nice way of putting it, Dylan.
I changed oil. I saw what people do to their cars. I saw what Toyota Care. I saw what Honda. I saw what Ford. I saw what all the major manufacturers do to their cars. Like all of the I have this protection plan. No. It's terrible. They do absolutely nothing. It's the bare minimum. No certifications from any dealer. No lease plan certification. No, especially the only cars that hold up for some reason. The only cars that hold up after they're used are Crown Victorias used by police officers, and that's just because that thing is a tank and like refuses to ever die. They will last forever. They're probably Crown Victorias with 1 million miles on them that are still running. I don't know how Ford did it, but they made a reliable car like 30 years ago.
Crown Vic taxis also. If you can, which by the way, getting a Crown Vic getting a taxi, period, is a pain in the ass. You gotta buy that medallion. You have to take certain things off so you aren't soliciting being an actual taxi. But there are people out there that collect taxis because they're iconic and they really aren't a thing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But Crown Vic taxis, pretty solid. The Crown Victoria, part of it is that they were really well taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
This was back when they actually put the money into it. Bill probably doesn't even know what a Crown Victoria is. He's probably seen them. I hate. Go back. I need the long-haired Matt pick. That's great.
It's literally Jason.
That's great. Is that Matt or is that one of his brothers?
That is Matt Wilkins, confirmed. Yeah.
Where'd you find that?
On his website.
Why is that on his website?
I don't know. That's also where I found this.
Well, I've seen that one before. Why are you like this? Why do you have...
Because Matt makes the best faces, and I just had to get all of them. I also have Callista Skywalker cosplayed by Barbara Hambly. Yeah. And Captain Barbara also here.
I wonder if Barbara Hambly is the nicest person on earth.
I don't know. I'll tell you when I meet her.
I'll send you my books for her. I should just send you things for you to sign for Jeremy. So when am I ever going to meet Barbara Hambly?
Well, she is a Californian. I think she lives in Long Beach.
So here's my thing. I live so far north. I don't live near anything.
Yeah, yes, I know. You live in part of California that probably shouldn't be a part of California.
No, it should be the state of Jefferson, where we have no way of having an economy. But shit,
actually, funny story. California is one of the few states that, when it entered the union, it entered on the first try, basically, because when states entered, they had to like send in where their borders want to be, and the U.S. government was really worried that California would actually be bigger than it was going to be. So when they sent the modern borders of what California is now, the U.S. government basically said, "Oh, that's all you want? Yeah, sure, okay," because they could have asked for a lot more.
Weren't they also including Baja California in that, or is that still?
No, that was Mexico, because they
It still is Mexico.
well, it is, but also the Mexican American War. We could have taken a lot more territory than we actually did, but the U.S. didn't want to do that because that would mean more territories that could potentially be slave states than free states. So they didn't want to do that. So that's why the borders are where they are today. Minus one, a bit of Arizona we got in like 1901, that like smoothed out the border. Well,
Can we please go back to Star Wars, because I have something amazing
Sure.
to show you.
okay.
So, just for the memes, I decided to buy the New Dawn of the Jedi, and I
Okay.
bought the wrong version because I got the fucking UK print.
Oh
It's
no.
the quality is terrible. Like, it's all glossy and it feels weird, and it's smaller than the regular one.
So does yours also at the end of it have an excerpt to Light of the Jedi?
Yes, Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Anyway, I
It
kind of.
It also has the penguin logo down there.
It's just the doofiest cover.
Okay, look at the planets. First off, this, like the symbol in the middle, it's not even like centered. It's not in the middle. This looks like an onion. And this, I mean,
This is a circle.
Like, I get the iconography, right? But are the Thoir even mentioned at all in the novel?
Briefly.
yeah, but, and I mean, look at her outfit
Well, because the
and
whole
her
thing
face.
is her brother wants to open an infinity gate, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like his thing. I'm trying to remember what.
Yeah, that's his thing. But that's the fun thing with difference between the book and the comics. The Infinity Gates in the comics are built by the Qua, and in this one it's by the Gree. So two different ancient species.
Also, there's a whole continuity error where it says that the big war they had was 10 years ago, and it was actually 12.
That's the thing?
Yeah, it's 12 years in the comics.
Okay.
That war, what was that war even called? I don't remember.
The Despot War?
The Despot War. And in Into the Void, it's 10 years, but if you read Eruption, that just says that the comics in the novel happen right one after the other, like immediately.
Oh, this reminds me, Eruption also no longer included in the paperback.
I was going to ask about that.
Yep,
That's
just checked.
But I get it because you can get it in the Insider Fiction Volume 1. And it's included in the audiobook.
Is there, in the About the Author section, is there any copy pasting of someone else's About the Author?
That's the first thing I looked for, and sadly not. It's just actually Tim Lebbins.
Tim Levin.
A shame.
Yeah, but I like how we have this book, one of the most hated in the Essential Legends collection.
I want to throw this comment.
We were just talking about it. Like, the Knight Errant is coming. Are they gonna do all of the Old Republic? Is like, are we gonna get Red Harvest and
Probably
we
we already got a Death Trooper, so we're gonna get Red Harvest. I think it's just because Old Republic, they know it's popular, so it's gonna make money regardless.
That's what I said. Dylan's like, "Are you sure?"
But like,
I don't know,
I still can't believe my local Barnes Noble did not have any copies of Republic Commando Hard Contact or Into the Void, but they had 4 copies of Dark Rendezvous for some reason.
Oh, man. Oh, I didn't tell you. I went to the bookstore 2 days ago. That's when I got my leg injury that I showed you in the Discord, when I had to break into my own house.
Mm-hmm.
But I found some Star Wars books in the city, in the bookstore. It was all Disney canon And then there was one copy of Darth Plagueis.
Interesting.
All right, shall we call it?
Sure.
Let's call it there. Thank you for joining us for my most surly podcast I've ever been on. I had many hot takes. I'm very tired.
Mhm.
I need to pee. I had a gross burp at the beginning of it. And that about sums this one up.
Hmm.
Thank you for joining us. Noah, thank you for actually getting the fuck up.
It's always a struggle.
Yeah. Anyway, have a good one.
Whew.